Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whatever time of day it is and whatever part of the world you're at right now. Welcome back, and today we're going to do a review of quadrilaterals, and more specifically, we're just going to focus on parallelograms for this video, okay? So first, we're just going to take time to fill out this chart and place an X. I don't like X's, so I'm gonna use check marks. And if you're following along, if you have this worksheet, you can use whatever markings you want. Or if you're just taking notes, then obviously you would just write down the phrases that apply to parallelogram. Okay. So first, let's see. If you've watched my other video, then you already know that the first two options apply to parallelogram. Those are actually what makes a parallelogram a parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel, check. Opposite sides are congruent, check. Now, another thing that's true is about the diagonals. The third thing, diagonals bisect each other. Now, bisect simply means to cut in half, okay? So just real quick, bisect means to cut in half. Okay. So half of something. It halves it. Alright. Now, let's see. The next thing, opposite angles are congruent. That is also true about parallelograms. Opposite angles are congruent. Okay. And what's next? Consecutive angles are supplementary. That is also true. Okay. So consecutive angles are supplementary. That means angles that are right after one another. Just those two angles are going to add to equal 180 degrees. So supplementary means that they add to equal 180. Now, the last three things are not true. Not always true about all parallelograms. The diagonals are not always congruent. The diagonals are not always perpendicular, and the diagonals do not always bisect opposite angles. The ones that we check always happen if it's a parallelogram. If we were to check off something else, then it would be something more specific. Maybe a rectangle, maybe a rhombus, or even a square. But like I said, for this video, we're only focusing on parallelograms, okay? All right, so next, those are the properties. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at this question here, these two numbers 9 and 10, and we're gonna be using this parallelogram, ABCD, to answer these two questions. So one thing we can do, we can go ahead and just mark this diagram up. For example, these opposite sides, one thing we know that they're parallel, okay? We don't have to put the markings there, but we already know that they're parallel. And just for sake, parallel markings look like this. They have to be, the lines that are parallel have to be going the same way, okay? Also, we also know that these opposite sides are congruent. So AC is congruent to DB, and CD is congruent to AB. Okay, so we can put our congruent markings like that. What else? So I'm gonna get rid of the parallel markings, and I'm just gonna make sure we have those congruent markings on the sides. We also said that the diagonals bisect each other. Excuse me. We also said that the diagonals bisect one another. So what that means, okay, and let me just erase these markings from the side. Here's one. I'm gonna highlight one of the diagonals, CB, okay? And I'm gonna just mark these points here so we can, these two segments, okay, these two segments have been cut in half by the yellow line, which means that C to E is congruent to E to B. Those two distances are the same. And the same is true for the yellow segment. A to E is congruent to E to D. Okay? because it was cut in half by the purple line. So the purple line and the yellow line, which are diagonals, cut each other in half. All right. We also said that the opposite angles are congruent. So angle C is congruent to angle B, and angle A is congruent to angle D because they're opposites of each other. And consecutive angles are supplementary. For example, angle C and angle D, when we add them together, they're going to equal 180 degrees. That's a true statement, okay? So now that we've kind of broken down the diagram, let's go ahead and take a look at numbers 9 and 10. So number 9 says CE is 6x minus 1. So CE is 6x minus 1. Then we have EB is 12x plus 11. E to B is 12x plus 11. Now, what we can do, since we just discussed it, we know that CE and EB are congruent. So we can take those two and set them equal to each other. 6x minus 1 equals 2x plus 11, okay? And they want us to find CB. CB is the entire thing. So if we know the measure of one segment, then we would just multiply it by 2, and that would tell us the C to B. So let's solve for x first. I would subtract 2x from both sides. That would give me 4x minus 1 equals 11. Then add 1 to both sides. That's going to make 4x equals 12. Then divide both sides by 4. X is going to equal 3. Now that I've solved for x, I'm going to plug x into EB, okay? So EB would be 2 times 3 plus 11. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 11 is 17. So if E to B is 17, then C to E is also 17. And then I just need to do 17 times 2, which equals 34. So, and that's equal to C to B. Okay. So C to B, or CB, is equal to 34. All right. Erase that. Now let's take a look at number 10. Number 10 says they give us two things. The measure of angle ACD. So ACD. All right. And they give us the measure of angle BCD. Oh, excuse me, BDC. So BDC. Let me redraw that. Let's get rid of that other one. It's a little better. All right, so we're looking at two consecutive angles, which means that those two angles are going to add to equal 180. So we can write our equation to say 7x minus 12 plus 10x plus 5 equals 180 degrees. And remember, those two angles that we just have drawn out are consecutive angles. So that means that, like I said before, or like we discussed, that they're supplementary, which means they add equal 180. So we're going to go ahead and solve for x, because that's all they want us to do, find x. Okay? Find x. So 7x and 10x make 7x and 10x make 17x, and negative 12 and positive 5 make negative 7. That's equal to 180. Then we add 7 to both sides, so that becomes 7x equals 187. And when we divide both sides by 17, we get 11. All right. And that's how we solve for x. So that's going to conclude this video. We'll be covering rectangles, rhombus, and squares in the following videos. See you all later.